week's episode of Naruto Shippuden, the Sasuke Shinden story continues, and it gets really exciting because this week, after weeks of waiting, Sasuke finally does battle with Fushin, the master of tornadoes and storms. It's a short-lived fight, but honestly it was pretty exciting, if only for the fact that we got some really great imagery of Susanoo literally going up against a massive tornado. It was some pretty kick-ass stuff, but honestly this entire episode was devoted to the history of Chino and her clan, the Chinoiki clan, which has the super-powered Kekai Genkai ability known as the Ketsuryugan, which is essentially just like the Byakugan, or the Rinnegan, or the Sharingan. It's a visual jutsu, but it does have another perk. You can actually make people explode. Essentially, the main characteristic of the Ketsuryugan is that it allows you to nullify the effects of other genjutsu users, as well as to manipulate their blood. It's pretty freaking metal, and Chino has honestly turned into one of my favorite characters from the series. She has a surprisingly cool and kick-ass backstory. So, basically, let's just start from the beginning. Fushin versus Sasuke. Sasuke whips his ass. What did you think was gonna happen? I mean, Sasuke doesn't even have to rely on any of his Rinnegan abilities or anything, but he still does get pushed back quite a bit, and I have to say the actual scale of this battle is pretty impressive. The fact that this giant tornado kept getting larger and that Sasuke was actually forced to use his Susanoo, and hilariously enough, when I was actually watching this episode, Christian was watching along with me, and he's like, why doesn't he just use Susanoo? And boom! A second later, that big badass skeleton finally came out. And Sasuke basically used it as a large distraction so that he could get to the eye of the storm, jump down, and kick Fushin's ass. So what exactly is the connection between Fushin and Chino? Well, we actually get into their pasts, which actually have a pretty big connection. As I predicted in some of the previous reviews, Chino, of course, is from the Chinoiki clan. She's basically the last surviving member. And as you guys remember, her entire clan was banished to this place, which is called the Hell Valley, which totally lives up to its name. It looks like somewhere where Skeletor would frickin' shack up. Basically, it's like this giant volcanic top, which is filled with all of this red boiling water. There's all of the skeletons of the Chinoiki clan in there. It's a really gruesome setting. And basically, Chino has been desperately trying to get back to this location so that she can meet up with her fellow clan members. By the end of the episode, she realizes that they're all dead, and Chino would have discovered her clan members a lot sooner if it wasn't for the fact that she was actually enslaved by Oyashiro, who also had his very own clan of orphan ninjas, trying to teach them to be his very own personal guard. And she even decided to actually fight in that big underground tournament a la Hunter x Hunter, and that's why we're actually introduced to Fushin, where, of course, he gets his ass completely handed to him. This is where we finally start to see what the Ketsuryugan can actually do, and the actual design of it is frankly just disturbing. And in many ways, it's kind of like a composite of some of the other abilities that we've seen from the series. I've already mentioned that it's similar to the Sharingan, but it also takes a lot of elements from even Sage Mode, looking a lot like the Toad Eyes. But when you put that into the head of a little girl with bleeding eyeballs, it creates some pretty disturbing imagery, and the fact that she was basically able to take out Fushin this easily is a testament to her power. Of course, the whole point of Chino 2 is don't underestimate what a character looks like, because she looks like a little girl, but she's a lot older than that. You know, just owe it up to some crazy jutsu that affected her in the past. But eventually she joins up with Fushin, and they form the Lightning Gang, which is essentially like the B team of Akatsuki. Like, they kind of have like the same aesthetic going on, where they wear these big long cloaks, they have these giant lightning bolts on them, and basically they're like a Robin Hood band of thieves, where they go around stealing from the rich, giving to the poor, and they even go back to that one bamboo village from a couple of episodes ago, and we get to see the history between them, how they had sort of like a mutual relationship where they would steal from people, give them the money, they would have shelter and somewhere to live. But by the end of the episode, we get to see they go on this mission to the Hidden Mist Village, where they get ambushed, they get seriously injured, and basically the entire Lightning Gang is just completely destroyed, with only Fushin and Chino left. They decide to go to the Hell Valley, and that's where she discovers the remnants of her dead clan, where she decides to try and get revenge against those who wronged them. And of course, one of them inadvertently just happens to be Sasuke, because he's a part of the Uchiha clan, and they were the clan that actually looked over the Ketsuryugan members. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden? Again, another fantastic episode of Sasuke Shinden. The quality of this arc just continues to show itself, not only in its animation, but also in the surprisingly good characterization. Chino and Fushin don't feel like filler characters. They feel like a natural part of the Naruto cast. And maybe a lot of that has to do with the fact that they do have very tragic backstories. Very similar to Naruto and Sasuke. In fact, the moment when Sasuke is actually talking to Chino at the very end of the episode and sort of realizes, yeah, she's just like me in just about every single way, and it's going to be up to me to show her the light. It's a pretty pleasant moment, to say the least, but most of this episode was filled to the brim with some surprisingly dark imagery, especially during the scenes at the beginning where Oyashiro was having all of the kids train with each other, and we got to see Chino awaken her Ketsuryugan abilities, because she straight up just bites the ear off of this kid. Like fucking Mike Tyson style, blood all over the place. That combined with the creepy blood red shot eyes that she has makes for honestly some of the creepiest imagery that I've seen from the show. And speaking of imagery, I love every single time that Sasuke is trying to like look into the heads of his victims or trying to get some personal information about this ability, that all of his genjutsu gets nullified, and it's always personified in the fact that he's basically being drowned by all of this red water. Call it blood, call it lava, whatever you want to call it. It's a really great visual cue to show that there's no way he's actually going to be able to fight against the current, which means he's going to have to go up against Chino in a completely different way. He's not going to have to be able to rely on his visual jutsu, but more on his straight ninja abilities. And, you know, even without his eye abilities, Sasuke's probably just going to bring the damn house down. So I can't wait to see how all of that's going to wrap up, although I have a feeling he's probably going to win over Chino with the power of friendship, the power of love. That's probably what's going to happen, or they're just going to end up just giving us this super depressing ending to this arc. All I know is I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with it, and if they can continue to make it as good as this one is right here, in terms of the animation, the quality of writing, and even the good characters who don't feel like one-offs that you don't even care about, then bring it on. I'm very excited. Not to mention, as soon as this one's done, we're going to get a couple of more smaller arcs devoted to some of the side characters of the series. I hope they're as high quality as Sasuke's is, because they're going to have to do a lot of hype building before we get to this brand new Boruto anime. But before we get there, let's just focus on this arc right here, which is honestly still continuing to be a pretty fantastic arc in its own right. So I'm going to give this episode right here a 4 out of 5. I am going to knock it down just a little bit, because some of the backstory was a tad long-winded, and I was expecting a little more from the battle between Fushin and Sasuke. But this episode did make it painfully clear that Chino is the one that we have to look out for. So I'm very anxious to see what their final battle is going to be like. The preview gives away some of the stuff that she's going to do, and I'm guessing that, like, she's able to manipulate liquids just as well as blood, because in the preview you see a shot where she's, like, controlling all of these giant red water dragons. Maybe they're water dragons made out of blood. That's metal as shit. I can't wait to see that in next week's episode. Otherwise, this was a pretty solid addition to the Naruto Shippuden series, and a pleasant little present right before we hit Christmas. So make sure to check it out, Naruto fans. If any of you did watch this week's episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. What did you think of Sasuke's battle with Fushin? Were you shocked that Chino had a connection to the Chinoiki clan? What do you want to see from the rest of Sasuke's brand new anime story? And what do you want to see from the rest of Naruto Shippuden before we move on to the brand new Boruto anime? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment or two, and if you liked this video, please give it a like. I will see you guys next time, and as always, stay dandy, baby.